Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to everything, including social media, podcasts, audio-only live stream, and so much more. And live around the world, live around the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends. Today, it is war. War. That's right. Not in the Middle East, not with Iran. That's going on. We know that. No, the more I look into this, the more I realize that the Alaska legislature and certain members of the legislature, including members who are supposedly conservative, have declared war on one of the most successful schooling systems in the state. And this is nothing more than a direct end run and a cash grab around, against, again, people who are trying to make a decision that's best for their family and doing everything else. Again, the ultimate expression of the politician's disease that we know better than you how to spend your money. That's what's going on this morning. That's what's happening today. That's what the public testimony is going to be happening and taking place today. We're going to talk about this. We touched on it a little bit yesterday, but quite honestly, we just didn't have enough to kind of expand and expound upon it and really dive down into it. But I received more contact in emails, messages from people around the state over this bill in the last 48 hours than I probably received on almost anything else in years. People are super concerned about this. Alaskans, average everyday Alaskans who are just trying to get by, who are trying to give their kids the best education they can, they are worried, they're scared, and they are furious about what's happening down in Juneau in regards to this. And we're going to take a deep dive into this today. We're also going to open up the phone lines for folks to actually have your say on this as well. Maybe you're as irritated as I am about what's happening. Or maybe not. Maybe you're just ambivalent. Maybe you just don't care. Maybe you're just fine with what's going on. But I got to tell you, it is, I'm agitated. I am severely agitated by people who continue to tell us one thing, and then when they get down there, do something completely different. And this is kind of a two-part frustration. From folks like Loki Tobin, this is no surprise. This is no surprise because she is bought and paid for by the teachers unions. She is in the bag, already a known quantity when it comes to making sure that the schools get absolutely everything, and not the schools themselves, but the administrations and the teachers unions and the districts and all the administrators, that they get everything they want. So no surprise there. But when we've got somebody like Senator Rob Yunt, who, again, comes from one of the reddest districts in the state, supposedly is all about, taking care of the kids. And in fact, he and I had a conversation, back when we first talked here on the air about, making sure kids got the funding that they need, the backpack funding. We talked about whether or not there should be school choice because the Matsu has got a huge population of homeschooled kids and everything else. And yet his name is on this bill front and center. I reached out to him yesterday. I've not heard back. I wanted to have him on the program to be able to discuss this and to talk about, what is the dealio, man? Why do you want to get anyway? We're going to we're going to jump into this, and we're going to dissect this a piece at a time. And I warned you that this was coming. I warned because I could see that, here's the genesis and let me walk you through the timeline of where we were going on this. First and foremost, I'm sorry. I started the show so agitated this morning that I totally forgot. 15 degrees here in Homer. It is apparently 1 below up in Kenai, 5 degrees in Anchorage. No weather warnings. Looking like everything's going, looks like there's no weather alerts or weather warnings or winter storm warnings. So maybe it'll be okay. 5 degrees and windy in Wasilla Fishhook. And I'm sure it's probably 10 below up in Fairbanks. Oh, it's 30 below in Fairbanks. Sorry. Chris just said 30 below in Fairbanks. So that's my normal weather roundup for the state. And the phone lines are open today. So today is just you and me, because I was trying to I wanted to try and get Senator Yunt on the program today to discuss this in a calm, cool, rational manner. But the more I thought about it yesterday after our discussions, and the more I looked into it, and the more emails and messages that I started to get on this, the more agitated I became about this whole situation. But I've opened up the phone lines, 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. If you'd like to sound off, we'd love to hear from you this morning. We'd love to hear, whatever your thoughts are on this, or, maybe any of the other things that we talk about. I'd like to hear it. Here's the timeline. Here's how it all got started. I started seeing this about 5 or 6 months ago, and I mentioned it to you here on the program that it was during the discussion times when different districts were talking about, and I think it started off, if I recall correctly, it started off when we were in Fairbanks, and they were talking about closing another couple schools, and there was a whole bunch of posts on Facebook about this. And there was a lot of caterwauling going on inside the comment section. And I started to see a trend. In this post, in various posts about this, where some of the people there were decrying the fact that homeschoolers were taking money away from their local schools. That essentially the gist and the thrust of all the commentary, which were all very similar, by the way, was that anybody who was homeschooling their kids was greedy and was stealing from the local school districts because they weren't putting their kids in the local schools, and therefore they weren't getting counted, and therefore the school district wasn't getting the money for those schools, because instead they decided to go put their kids in another school system. And I could see this buildup. I could see that, and again, I'm going to tell you I told you so, but I told you so. I said, this is going to be the next line of attack. The next line of attack is that because the schools have piss poor planning, because they have school districts and boards that can't run a checkbook properly, can't properly do any long-term planning, have no vision and understanding of what it means when you have a decline, that you have to, again, tighten things up and make changes, that you can't just keep living out of the same budget when you have lower income, not necessarily even take into account the fact that maybe the state underfunded it. Maybe they did. Maybe that's part of the justification. But the bottom line is you have a drop in enrollment, a significant drop in enrollment, and you're funded on a per pupil basis, meaning your budget comes from they factor the formula on you have this many students and you get this much money times this many students. And when you have fewer students, you get less money. And they've known that the enrollment has been on the decline. And since COVID, that decline has only accelerated. And there's a whole variety of reasons why that happened. A lot of it had to do with the people's eyes being opened to the way that the school system was doing things and the way the modern education system works, and people realizing that there may have been a better alternative. And so you saw places like Cyberlinks and Raven and Idea and all these homeschools, and then all the charter schools, which almost every one of these charter schools, by the way, have a huge waiting list to get in. Why? Because people want an alternative to what they're being spoon-fed. And yet you've seen that the new attack method is blaming the homeschooling people for stealing money from the brick and mortar schools. You guys are all so greedy. You all you think about is what's best for your children, and you don't think about the rest of the children. You're just taking money out of the districts. Hold on. Sorry, got all worked up, swallowed my own spit. That's where we're at. That's where we're at right now. We're at this point where they have been ginned up and people have been given their marching orders, and the new enemy in the state of Alaska are those parents who dare to buck the system, who dare to decide to pull their kids out of the standard brick and mortar school, which, by the way, I will point out, have some of the most horrific scholastic achievements scores in the entire country. We have a school system that is doing a crappy job, and we're just supposed to be okay with it. So when people make a decision to say, well, that's not working for me, that's not working for my kids, I have this other option, and oh, by the way, this other option, their achievements, their scoring is much higher. They seem to be doing much better. The kids seem to be coming out, I'm going to try this. You're evil. You're bad. You're stealing from the rest of us. And it's because of you that our kids can't get. This is where it's coming. This is where it's happening. We're going to get into this, and we're going to take your phone calls. I see Gail is on the line. We're going to go over there here in just a second, but I do have to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to break this down. We're going to start with Gail's phone call. Then we're going to break down this 277. And we're going to go through it piece by piece. And you're going to take a look at this. And if you have an ounce of intellectual integrity, you're going to start asking questions. I'm not going to say you're going to agree with me totally, but you're going to start asking questions like, that just doesn't seem right. Make no mistake, SB 277, the bill we're talking about, is a direct attack on the homeschooling systems, and specifically, it is targeted directly at the largest homeschooling system in the state, IDEA, the Galena City School District's correspondence program. It is directly targeted to gut that organization because they are the most prolific, most successful, largest homeschooling system in the state, and it is a direct attack on them. We're going to continue here in a second. We're going to check in with Gail, and then we're going to talk with her right after the break. If you want to come out and be part of it during the show or during the commercial break, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/MichaelDukeshow/live. You can join us there as well. Back with more, The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the break right now, and we are ready to go. I see Gail's on the line. Let's go over here and just check in with Gail to make sure that she's going to stick with us here through the commercial break. Are you with us, Gail? Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, did I break something? I may have broken something. Hold on a second here. Yeah, looks like it. Gail, hold the line. I'm going to put you back on hold. And I'm going to log on and log off here of my phone system because for some reason, it was working this morning when I got started, but for some reason it is not, it's not hearing you. So hold on a second. This is why we check things during the, break here. Let's try this again. See if we can get it. Thanks so much for calling the Michael Duke Show. Hold on one second while we connect you to the show. Okay.
There is one other participant in the conference.
There we go. All right, let's try this again. Can you hear me now, Gail?
Yes, I can. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
I can hear you this time. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. If you hold on for a second, we're going to get back to the radio in about 3 minutes and 15 seconds, and we'll take your call right off the bat, okay?
Thank you.
All right, hold the line for us here. Okay. Where was I? Before I was so rudely interrupted by these technical problems. Kevin McCabe says global shrinking enrollment is not caused by homeschooling. In fact, true homeschooling is a benefit to school districts, maybe not individual schools. Shrinking enrollment is caused by outmigration from the state, from a lower fertility rate, and also the 3,000 to 4,000 babies that are aborted each year. It all adds up to less students, which equals less money. I mean, he's not wrong on any of that. We've been looking a lot at fertility rates and reproduction rates across the country, and we're nowhere near across the country having enough babies to basically replace what we got going on. On top of that, we've got an outmigration problem, but in addition to that, we've got a dissatisfaction level. We've got a dissatisfaction level with the product that we're receiving from the school districts. And again, this was really brought to the forefront and brought to a head during COVID. COVID opened up a lot of people's eyes. I mean, I've got, and I would say it's anecdotal, except I got it straight from the horse's mouth. I mean, these are people that reached out to me during the time that COVID was going on, and we were having all these problems with the schools, and I was exhorting people and saying, you need to consider whether or not you'd like to homeschool, et cetera, et cetera. And it was 6 or 7 people that reached out to me specifically that said, I took your advice. We started homeschooling. It's the best thing we ever did. And I can't believe that I had my kids in that system for so long, where they were either struggling or they weren't thriving, or they just didn't have, it's amazing. Now, maybe for every 7 that said it was the greatest thing, maybe there were others but they didn't reach out to me. They didn't reach out to me. I think COVID, again, I've often said one of the silver linings of COVID, and there's very few silver linings from COVID, but one of the silver linings is that it opened up people's eyes to the ridiculousness that our school systems are operating under. Just how inefficient, how really it's not about the kids and the education for a lot of people in a lot of ways. For some people it is. For some teachers out there, man, that's their whole life. And I appreciate them. But for others, it's about the perpetuation of power. It's about the justification for their position and what they're doing. And it's always about more money. That's what it's all about. And again, there's good people in the system. I don't want to paint with a broad brush and say it's everybody, but I will tell you, it's a lot of the administrations. That's what's going on for sure. All right. We are almost ready to go. We're 8 seconds out. We're going to continue the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's go.
Broadcasting across the state from his own private studio with that killer 15-foot commute from the couch. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
All right, we're continuing now. We've got Gail on the line. Let's get over to Gail so she can tell us what her thoughts are this morning. Gail, what's on your mind?
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking my call, and thanks for bringing this subject up. I'm in Fairbanks. I'm the chapter chair for the Fairbanks Moms for Liberty organization in Fairbanks, and I have a personal long history with homeschooling, involvement with education, and for the last almost 2 years, I have attended every school board meeting here. So I've been following this very closely. And this is a very serious matter. I'm very frustrated with the tone of the conversation that I hear and the topic. First of all, this is a topic about children and education. That's not what we hear. This is always about funding. And as you have been saying this morning, it's about who's taking the money away and this and that. The focus is on the children and education. And the fact of the matter is the school districts have been failing children across the nation for decades. And as you have said, COVID brought much of it to a head, but kids in homeschool and in charter schools and in private schools are getting a far, far better education. The school districts here in Fairbanks, I know personally, are unresponsive to parents' concerns.
Right.
And parents are frustrated. They're taking their kids out.
Right. Well, that's one of the reasons. That's what we talked about, Gail, is that parents are frustrated. They're not being heard. They're taking their kids out for those reasons or more. You're right, 100%. We should be focusing on the kid. I see all this outrage from the parents about the closure of a school or something else going on, yet nobody seems to be concerned about the scholastic achievement that those schools and the scores that these kids are receiving on their standardized testing. They're all upset about the fact that you might close the school, not upset about the fact that their kids are getting a crappy education.
It's extremely frustrating. I'm watching it. There are other issues that are as important. We've been working very, very seriously here on the content of the school library issue. This is happening across the country. We are in step, and homeschooling is simply one of the best options that there are.
Yeah, well, it is one of the best options that we have. And this is their way, because we're winning that fight. as far as we're doing better, we have better achievements, the parents are happier, it costs less than it does for brick and mortar schools, and we're going to get into that here in a little bit. But because we're checking all these and we're winning in that whole thing, these people have now taken a direct attack against the folks who are doing better and who are winning.
Well, I completely agree. And the successes that they tout are the READS Act, which is also being attacked in this particular bill being funded differently. But my head was exploding when I heard that was a success, that we had to spend more money to hire teachers, to teach the teachers how to teach them how to read. This is not rocket science, and it simply is evidence that our system has been infiltrated by ideology over academics. And that is what people are frustrated with.
Yep.
And the other piece to this that people don't often, and it is somewhat peripheral to the current absolute discussion, but homeschooling is good for families. And we have a family crisis in our nation and in Alaska and in Fairbanks.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you on all these points, Gail, and I appreciate you calling in and sounding off on this, because I think, again, it's showing that we are, in a lot of ways, winning, and this is their next line of attack because they just can't beat it at any other way. So the next big issue is to try to defund it and destroy the system so that people can't use it and force all your kids into the little boxes that they want them to be. Anything else, Gail, before I let you go?
No, I think I've pretty much covered it, but I just want to say thank you so much for taking this issue up, because this is critical.
Yeah. No, I agree. The children are our future. That's not just a Whitney Houston line. That is the truth. The children are our future. And if we're just dumbing them down, we're not getting them the best education they can. And we care more about how they feel and the kumbayas and, well, they really like this school. And that's great. How are they doing academically? If they're crashing and burning academically, it doesn't matter how nice the school is or how many of their friends are there, or because it's in their neighborhood, they're not going to succeed outside in the world if they're not being taught the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic, let alone anything else. Thank you, Gail, for your call. I appreciate it. Phone lines are open, 319-527-3864. If you want to sound off on this, now's the time to do it. Look, here's what's going on. Here's what's happening with this bill. So SB 277 has several components to it. Okay? First and foremost, and this bill is a direct attack on any kind of alternative schooling. So that means charter schools, homeschooling programs, correspondence schooling programs. It takes aim at each and every one of them. We talked about this yesterday. The first part is that it doubles the administrative fees that school districts can charge to charter schools from 4% currently to 8%. But again, that doesn't sound like a lot. Well, it's 4% to 8%. Well, it's a doubling, which in and of itself is troubling. But you're like, 8%, it's not. But again, every one of those dollars means fewer dollars into each classroom and more money that's diverted to the districts to prop up their bureaucracy, to prop up and justify the number of admin people that they have in each one of these districts. It also forces correspondence programs into what they call cooperative agreements, where the administrative fees approved by the Department of Education can be levied on the very program's families who choose that they're trying to escape the centralized overarching control. They're trying to do something different, and instead it puts those administrative fees right on those people. It opens the door, says Suzanne Downing, for districts to withhold funding from the programs that are actually educating the students. And if you couldn't tell, this is why I'm so agitated. Because we are succeeding. We, as parents of homeschooled kids, and all my kids are out of school, but we homeschooled every one of our kids through the IDEA program, which is the most successful homeschooling system in the state. But what gets me is that they are directly targeting the successful programs to try and drag them and bludgeon them and defund them and bring all your kids down to the same level of stupidity that's being delivered by the brick and mortar schools. Now I can hear it already. Why do you hate schools? I don't hate schools. And there are some kids that do very well in the brick and mortar schools. I would argue it's probably the kids who are the most engaged with the most engaged parents, and they're probably doing adequately. But the problem is that you have to build a school system not based on the kids who are super excited about going to school, who are super interested with engaged parents. That's not what you build a school system on. You build a school system for kids who are mediocre, who are not really that interested, who need to be cajoled. That's what you need to be building the system on. Sure, there are outliers who are doing fine. What is the median doing? Well, we know that the median is doing very poorly. We're 51st out of 53 districts, including Puerto Rico. We're on reading. We know we're on our math. Our math scores are poor. Our we can just go through the list. The medians are doing very poorly. Sure, there's kids who are succeeding, who are doing excellently. We know that. But the median is, and by the way, that also means that if there are some that are succeeding and the median is stumbling, we also know that those on the lower half of that they are failing miserably. Which again leads me back to the 76% graduation rate. 1 in 4 just don't graduate. And the most of them that do graduate, if they want to go to college, they got to take remedial math just to take a basic 100 level math class at the University of Alaska. But that's just the beginning of this thing. Not only does it attack charter schools through the administrative services and create all these cooperative agreements where the administrative fees, then it does something even worse. And that is the direct attack on the correspondence funding. We're going to get to that here in a second. I got another call. I think this is David. Let's going to go over here and see what has to be said. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Michael. It's David calling from Australia.
It is David. Today? Good morning. Good morning, my friend. Am I wrong, David? Am I off target? Am I over the target? What's going on here?
I'd like to say you're totally wrong, but you're on the target. This is the new business model for the brick and mortar schools to take successful schools' money, the charter schools, and also the correspondence homeschool programs in Alaska, and take
All right. We're back now. You guys let me know in the chat room. Back. Lost our audio there for a second. I don't know what's going on. So I think everybody was just so mad at me, or everybody was just so mad with me. But I think we're back now. All right. So audio should have returned to everything going on. All right. Okay. It's all good. I mean, I put the banner on the screen. It said, well, the audio's out. Give me a minute, right? You guys are all with me on that? Is the audio back? You guys will have to tell me. You should be good. Yeah, the NEA got me. Exactly. Okay, audio's back. Let's go back and check in and make sure that I didn't lose the audio with David. Are you still with me, David?
Yes, I'm with you through thick and through thin.
Okay. All right. Hold the line. I'm going to come back to you here. We're going to restart that conversation here on the other side because I lost you about 25 seconds into your reply. So hold the line. We'll be right back to you. Don't go anywhere. Okay. All right. I'm just making sure. You know, what do you expect from a low budget radio show, folks? That's all I can say. Sometimes you get what you pay for. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes you get what you pay for. Man, I'm trying not to get over edge. I'm really heated this morning, and I'm just really struggling not to be upset about it. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm really trying not to get super agitated about it because I could get real shouty here in about 12 seconds over this whole deal. Because again, this is a direct attack on every homeschooling family, on every parent that decided that the best choice for their child was not to be lumped in the brick and mortar schools, and somebody who wants to do it. Yes, Kevin says, do you need a supplemental budget? I'll tell you what, Kevin, I'll do it for 1% of the current supplemental budget. I could make it all happen. That's all I need. You know. Yeah, audio meltdown. When I listen to the radio, I don't expect to read banners. You know the irony of this, Frank, is that when you guys lose audio, when you guys don't hear it, it's still going out on the radio because I was able to bypass and patch everything early on so that no matter what, the audio remained on the radio. It just may not remain on the Facebook feed because ultimately the radio is the most important thing to make sure we don't have dead air on any of these stations. So even though you guys lose audio, it's still going on the radio. So there you go. Yeah. Yeah, this whole thing is crazy. Subject matter overloaded the system. Yeah, exactly. The abilities of schooled individuals today are why I retired, says Jim. There are more idiots out there. Like I said, 95% of the people you communicate with are idiots. I mean, I don't think that they're idiots, Jim. I think maybe that's a little harsh. I think, ignorant, maybe, uneducated, lacking in accurate thought, right? We're not taught any kind of analytical. I mean, they're not really taught much in the way of analytical skills. So yeah, this is it. Ralph Waldo Emerson, you're quoting one of my favorite philosophers. A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, adorned by little statesmen and philosophers and divines. With consistency, a great soul has simply nothing to do. He may as well concern himself with his shadow on the wall. Speak what you think now in hard words, and tomorrow speak to what tomorrow thinks in hard words again, though it contradict everything you say today. I love me some Emerson. All right, we're gonna continue here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. David Boyle is our guest. Let's get to it right now.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
All right, we're back. Before we were so rudely interrupted by the commercial break, David Boyle from the Alaska Policy Forum was with us, and I was just asking David, do you think I'm over the target here, or am I all wet? Am I all wrong? I'm sorry, David, I had to interrupt you with a commercial break, so let's pick that back up. Am I wrong? Am I right? What do you see happening here?
Well, I'd have to give you an A+ on this, on your on this task of summarizing what Senate Bill 277 does. It's it's bent on destroying the homeschool program, the correspondence program, and also seriously affecting the charter school program by doubling the admin overhead costs that they can extract from the charter schools. And so in the charter schools, what that will probably do will increase the number of students per teacher in the classroom. So, I didn't think the education industry was for that, but I guess they are. I watched a presentation by Dean Commissioner Bishop, I think it was 2 weeks ago, House Ed, I believe. And I give you some statistics here comparing brick and mortar number of students in brick and mortar schools and those in correspondence schools. I'll go back 10 years. In 2016, there were about 118,000 students in brick and mortar. Today, there are 100,715, a drop of 18,000 students. On the other hand, in the correspondence programs, 11,600 students in 2016, more than double in this year, 24,266, a 13,000 increase in 10 years, and 18,000 decrease in the number of students in the brick and mortar schools. So this is a trend that's been going on, definitely been increasing since the COVID years, because parents knew what their kids were being taught and what they were not being taught. And so they decided to get their kids out of the brick and mortar schools and go homeschool, independent homeschools, or some of them even charter schools. So the education industry, I won't talk education industry, is looking at this and saying, wow, this is a terrible trend going forward, and we're going to lose more and more students. So we need to either stop it, or we need to get some of the money from the correspondence students. And that's what's going on. They're filling their budget holes that they can't manage their budgets. So they're going to use other schools' budgets to backfill their budget.
Yes. No, I mean, absolutely. This is a cash grab, right? They couldn't manage the money that they were given. They can't manage the money that they have right now. They can't look at it and understand that there's a decline in it. There's been a projected, this is the worst part, David, for 10, 12, this has been for 20 years, we've been losing students. For 20 years, and there's been a projected decline every year. It's built in. They know that there's going to be a decline because they know the birth rates, they know all this other stuff, and they're like, we know it's going to decline. And instead of planning for that decline and saying, hey, we're going to have fewer students, and we're built on a per student formula for how we receive our money, maybe we should plan accordingly. They just want to continue getting the same amount of money for fewer students moving forward, instead of making the hard choices early on, which would have been smaller hard choices, to the point to today where all the choices are bad because they were piss poor managers of their money. So now the answer is, we're just going to scrape all that money back from all these other outfits who, by the way, are doing a tremendous job, academically, who are delivering a great product for the parents and the students, but we're going to take all the money from them and pour it back into our school systems.
Yeah. How in the heck can anyone justify getting funding for students that you don't have? I mean, that's the ironic part of it. But they have a lot of power. I noticed the hearing is today at 3:30 in Senate Education, and I looked to see if there were any documents there, because there's invited testimony only. It's going to be very interesting to see who even takes the invitation to testify today. It's going to be, so I'm going to listen to that.
Yeah, no, I want to see what's going to be said.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I want to see what's going to be said. And you realize the only reason that they have invited testimony is because they know that if the homeschoolers get wind of this, and they're starting to, the homeschooling families, these 25,000 homeschooling families, if they get wind of this, you're going to remember what happened last year when they were going to do some big cuts to the homeschooling program, and all of a sudden everybody came out of the woodwork. They don't want people to know about this bill.
No, they don't. But in the homeschool army, those parents are involved in their child's education. That's why they're in the correspondence program, and they have a very large army. Their army is larger than the NEA's army, by the way. At 24,000 students this year. That's a lot of parents. Let's say it's probably maybe 18,000 parents or so, and a lot of them get very active. They have a Facebook page as well, as you're probably aware of. There's another interesting part in this bill which nobody's talked about yet, and it's talked about out-of-state teacher certification. And one of the things in there says that rather than using you have to have a BA, and that has to be approved by not the regional associations like the Northwest College Accreditation Association, but any institutional accreditation. And that can mean almost anything. So I've got to look into that. It could be any international organization could accredit the teacher as well for a business degree. I think that may, not business, but a BA. And I think that may be targeted at the large number of Filipinos that we have teaching in some of our rural schools today.
Well, it could be. I mean, I just don't know at this point. But I do know that one of the things that's going to happen here is that if the homeschooling families and the charter scam families wake up to this and they understand, there's going to be a reckoning. And again, I understand why they only want invited testimony for today's hearing, and that's because they don't want the input from the people. They want to be able to put their puppets up there, and I guarantee it'll be people from school districts or unions or the educational industry in some way that will be the ones that are going to be commenting up there today, and everybody else will be, and they'll all be, this is the greatest thing that we need this because they're stealing our money. That's what it's going to be about. They're going to be stealing our money. So,
well, maybe this is just pandering and posturing, Michael, also for the November elections, so that the people, that support this bill, the senators and reps that support this bill, can tell the education industry, and there's a lot of them in the state, that hey, we supported this, and it failed because they know the governor is going to veto it anyway. And it won't be overridden. We tried and we failed, but we're going to try again. Therefore, you need to, guess what? Vote for this guy as governor, a guy that wouldn't veto it.
Yeah,
that's why it's very important. Who the governor is.
It very well. I mean, my only satisfaction in this is that I think the governor, if this does make it pass, by the way, if it does, that the governor, I believe, would veto it. And I don't know if there would be enough at that point. By that time, there'd probably be enough coverage of it that the homeschooling people would be activated. But the audacity to say that this is the answer. The answer is to steal and to literally destroy. This is targeted at IDEA, right? And Raven and Cyberlinks. But IDEA is the biggest player on the field. And this would literally destroy, it would dismantle the entire funding mechanism for IDEA. And we're going to get into that here in just a minute when we talk some more about it. But Dave, go ahead, Dave.
There's another piece, section in there that talks about the homeschool program, students, parents being allowed to keep their curriculum materials, books, etc. Do any of the listeners know what previously they had to return those back to the homeschool program itself? Maybe some of your listeners know, what do those homeschool, like IDEA and Raven, what do they do with those materials once they're returned to them? Do they just put them in the dumpster?
Well,
or recycle them, or whatever?
I can tell you from my experience that there are certain materials that you keep and certain materials that you don't when you finally leave the system, because we had to do that with our final child. Electronics, things like that, maybe laptops or tablets or anything else that we were provided, if they weren't depreciated out, then you had to return them. Like books, workbooks, you didn't return that stuff because that's just materials that are used but what they're talking about, it's a microscopic gimme in this regard. Oh, you get to keep your stuff. Well, you got to keep about 80% of the stuff anyway if you ever got out of the program. We just rolled it from one kid to the next. We never had to return anything for the first, 15, 20 years that we did this, because by the time my youngest was out, all we had left to return was an iPad and a computer piece and a little, I think it was a laptop, whatever it was. We had to return a couple, 3, 4 things. Everything else was, we'd had it long enough that it was depreciated out. It didn't matter. So anyway, that's the answer to that. All right, David, thank you for calling in and being part of it today. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We're gonna get down deeper into the dealio here, and David actually referenced a few things that we haven't even discussed about what this program does. But we're talking about the war on homeschooling. And again, I'm asking the question, the biggest question in this whole thing is, why is Senator Rob Yunt a part of this? Because again, he was on my program. We had talked about school choice. We talked about the ability maybe of creating some backpack funding. We'd had some conversations about some of this stuff, and he was saying all the right things. I mean, he's from one of the reddest districts in the state out there in Wasilla, where they've got a huge slice of homeschool and charter school populations. Why would he support this? I don't know, because he hasn't responded yet to my request, but we'll find out more. Hour 2, dead ahead, The Michael Duke Show. Oh. Okay. Where was I? Okay, I was over here. Do it. Whoop. I'll do that. There we go. All right. You mean politicians lie? Melody said he fooled us all. Okay. Somebody giving me a hard time about vaping? Oh. Well, it's either that or I could be smoking a cigar or a pipe or whatever else that I don't do anymore because I vape. Wouldn't you rather smell blueberries than cigarette smoke or tobacco smoke or pipe smoke? I'm just, just asking for a friend. This keeps me from hurting people. I just want you to know that right off the bat. Public schools are in a mass failure in education and learning. I mean, I think that's a given at this point. Again, there are students who do excel. There are students who do well in that, but the bottom line is the median, the mainstream, most of them are not. That's the problem. Okay. Catherine says, write in testimonials to all the members of the Senate Education Committee relentlessly. Let this die in committee. Well, I'm hoping, and I wanted to reach out to the superintendent of the IDEA program, and I might try and do that again. I haven't had somebody from IDEA on the program in many years, but I would like to have them on to discuss this specifically as well. I'd like to find out more about that. Yeah. No, well, I would agree with that, Chris. She says, I don't mind you smoking the vape. I'm vaping the vape, not smoking, but it's okay. I think it's just wrong for kids to smoke them, especially. I mean, it's like, yeah, they shouldn't be, kids shouldn't be drinking or smoking or what, but it never stopped them. And we all had the stoner kids, right, that were out at our high schools, that were out in we all, right? It happened. It just didn't happen in the classroom. Yeah, I get you on that. Yeah, Rauscher replaced Mike Shower. I'm sorry. I'm trying to come to grips with this thing right now. I want to go in a million different directions, and I'm just so agitated by this whole thing right now. Just the audacity of taking the system that's working and that parents are embracing and is doing so well for kids and to just tear it down and to use it to prop up a system that's failing is the worst possible idea we can have. Absolutely the worst possible idea. Has anyone done a forensic audit on the AK school system to see how many employees are actually needed beyond teachers? Asks Richie. Well, no, I mean, we could go back to, remember when Sarah Montalbano was the education correspondent, the education analyst for the policy forum? And she did that analysis of how many administrators there were per teacher, per actually teaching in the classroom teacher. And in most places, it was 2 to 1, 2.5 to 1. And in some places, it was as much as 4 administrators to every teacher in the classroom. No, they're obviously not doing a forensic. They don't want to do a forensic audit. They don't want to actually look at those numbers because what they want to do is they want to keep everybody employed. It doesn't matter. The academic achievement scores don't matter to them. What matters is that everybody keeps their job no matter what. No matter how many students you have, no matter how poor or how good or how bad your achievement scores is, the whole bottom line here is to keep the industry employed. That's what it's all about. Jesus. Sorry. David said per student spending in ADAC for the 2023-24 school year was $121,000 per student, and less than 10% of those students are proficient in reading. Man, we got some problems there. We got some real challenges there. Oh, I'm trying to calm down. Trying to be cool, trying to not get an FCC violation. Son of a trying to not, Yeah, Richie said, I'd rather pay 2 teachers $85,000 a year to produce functioning, productive kids than 35 fax jockeys. Well, that's what they're doing. They're paying everybody $85,000 a year, in the teachers' aides and the administrative aides and everybody's getting paid a minimum of $85,000 a year. That's nothing, man. Those are rookie numbers. The average teacher with pay and with between that and their benefits and everything else is like $108,000 a year for 8-9 months worth of work. That's a good gig if you can get it, man. It's a good gig if you can get it. All right, we're gonna continue on here. I'm gonna try not to lose my mind. We'll be back. The Michael Duke Show.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com. and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends. It's hump day, middle of the week, downhill slide. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined by Senator George Rauscher. He's going to be with us in hour one. Fingers crossed it happens this time. Then in hour two, we're going to be joined by Ben Carpenter from Oversight Live. He's going to come in and talk. I'm sure we're going to just be continuing to dissect this SB 277. That'll be part of our conversation tomorrow as well. On Friday, it's Firearms Friday. I don't know who I'm going to have as a guest, but we're working on some guests right now as well. On Monday, quick note, programming note. On Monday, there'll be alternate programming. I'll be off the air on Monday because I'll be traveling back from Fairbanks. We're broadcasting the Open North American Championships, which is it's the Iditarod of sprint dog mushing. 3 days worth of mushing, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I'll be flying back on Monday, coming back. So I'll be in transit when the show appears. So it'll be alternate programming across the state on Monday. Apologies, I can't be two places at once. But we'll be back on the air on Tuesday. So that's just the highlights there. If you're just joining us, this is I'm trying to remain calm. I'm trying to maintain my cool because I am so agitated. This is war. The legislature, and specifically Loki Tobin and the Education Committee, Loki Tobin and Senator Rob Yunt, have declared war on all the correspondence students and the charter school students, all the alternative schooling students in the state. They've declared war on every one of them with their new bill, SB 77, which we've been talking about for the last hour, and we're going to continue to delve down into. I've opened up the phone lines today because it's just you and me, and so if you have something to say about this, I'd love to hear it. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. Richie in the chat room made a comment earlier here during the break, and he said, I'd rather pay two teachers $85,000 a year to produce functioning, productive kids than 35 fax jockeys. And what we were talking about was the number of administrators versus in the classroom teachers. And we know that Sarah Montalbano, who is a guest of the friend of the show, who initially started out as the education analyst for the Alaska Policy Forum, she did a study on this a couple of years ago where she looked at it and found that in most districts, it's like 2 to 1, 1.5, 2 to 1 administrators to in the classroom teachers. And in some districts, it's as high as 4 to 1. For every teacher in the classroom, there's 4 administrative or support staff that have to do it, which just seems ridiculous. So he said, I'd rather pay 2 teachers $85,000 a year and produce functioning. And I told him those are rookie numbers. The average salary, just the salary for just this last school year, 24 to 25, was $82,000. That's just the salary. When you factor in total compensation, including benefits, including an employer-paid portion of health insurance, retirement contributions, everything else, the total value typically ranges from $110,000 to $125,000 a year for an 8 or 9 month year. It's pretty good money if you can get it, right? I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm saying it's pretty good money if you can get it. Let's let's get back to this SB 277. This bill, again, put forward by Loki Tobin and Rob Yunt. Now, Loki Tobin, this should be no surprise. Again, she's totally bought and paid for by the education industry, the education industrial complex. She is in their pocket. She's head of or one of the, I think she's one of the co-chairs of the education funding committee that's going on right now. But she just keeps throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. But this one is the scariest because, again, this is targeted directly at defunding and dismantling both correspondence and homeschools and the charter schools, putting a more burden on the charter schools. We talked about that in hour one. I mean, the first thing it does is double all the administrative fees that charter schools have to pay to the local school districts. Doubles it. That's going to make things a lot easier, right? Now, they say that part of the win on this is that SB 277 will increase the correspondence funding, because currently correspondence students only receive they're only counted as 90% of a full student. So they only get 90% of the funding that a regular student in brick and mortar schools get. So they're saying, well, what we're going to do is we're going to increase that to 100. Aren't you happy? Yeah, but no, because then the bill redirects where that money goes. It mandates that the money, instead of following where the student wants to go, if they want to go to the Galena School District, if they want to go to the Nenana City School District, which is Cyberlinks, or if they want to go to the Yukon Koyukuk one that's Raven, if they want to go to those, they can't, because the money has to remain inside their districts. It requires the correspondence students have to be counted in the district where they live, not the district providing their education. Now, for operations like IDEA, who operate out of Galena, they can't provide those services if they don't receive the funding. By the way, how much do they receive of the funding? About $5,000 or $6,000 per student. How much do the brick and mortar schools get per student in funding because of the formula and the way everything else works out? About $20,000 per student. So they're getting almost 4 times the amount of money, but it's still not enough. So if they have to count those students in those districts, that means Galena, Nenana, Yukon Koyukuk, these programs that are really successful in providing education for kids, they've been doing a bang-up job. Their financial models would collapse. I mean, they would just cease to exist the following year. But even worse than that is this. This is the sneaky bastard part of this whole deal, all right? The students would be counted, these kids who want to remain in correspondence, they would be counted towards the school with the lowest enrollment in their home district. Now, they could remain correspondence students. It would force them to be correspondence students of the correspondence program of whatever the local school district is. Not the best correspondence in the state, like IDEA or Raven or Cyberlinks, but maybe an adequate one provided by their local wherever, Matsu, Fairbanks, whatever. But they would be counted as students in the lowest enrolled school in their district. That is a direct manipulation. Because then their lowest enrolled, we only were at 43, 47%, 51% enrollment. But now, because we can count all these homeschoolers, now we could say the school is fully enrolled. And guess what they get on a per student basis? Because now they're counting them to their lowest enrollment. They're not getting just the 90% or the 100%. If they're counting them to enroll in these schools and they're counting them as if the students are attending this lowest enrollment school, they're getting the full kick of the BSA, the full $20,000 worth of monies with all the add-ons and everything. It's a cash grab. Doesn't matter what the parents want. Doesn't matter what the students want or where the students thrive. Doesn't matter what kind of outcomes you're getting in the school. We want our money, and this is how we're going to do it. This is a bill that is directly targeting the 25,000 homeschooling families in the state. This would completely undo and change it for the vast majority of them. Barbara Haney in Fairbanks did some numbers on some of this. When you look at the enrollment, IDEA is the big dog in the room. 8,300, almost 8,400 students enrolled in IDEA. 3,700 students enrolled in Raven, and another 2,100 students enrolled in Cyberlinks. So between all that, you've got almost 14,000 of the 24,000 students enrolled in some form of correspondence or charter schools going through those three programs alone. And this would completely disenfranchise those. It would just cut the knees right out from underneath of them. This is some madness. This is and Suzanne Downing points out the argument being used to justify this is that the districts deserve funding even if students don't attend their schools. Regardless of the fact that the parents in these boroughs already pay local taxes to support the districts, even if their kids don't go to the local district schools. I mean, that's a significant portion of your contribution, and that gets ignored in this conversation. And they're completely ignoring the fact that people are making a choice with their feet. They're voting, they're leaving on their own. And are the districts asking the questions why? Of either the parents or even themselves as a district. Why do you think people are leaving the district? Why do you think that they don't want to be participant? Why do you think that is, John? I don't know, Joe. Why do you think we should be? I don't know. Maybe we should ask them. Oh, we shouldn't. I mean, that'd be too much trouble. We shouldn't possibly ask them. Following some recent criticism of correspondence programs by Superintendent Randy Trainey, criticism that relied in part on incorrect data, programs like IDEA saw immediate increases in enrollment. The more the school districts screw the pooch, the more that they show their biases towards or away from correspondence and charter schools, and they show their disdain for parents wanting to take control of their kids' education, the more that they do that, the more they encourage that kind of behavior. Families are voting with their feet. And it looks like SB 277 is a direct attack on those families that are deciding where they want to go and how they want their kids. How dare you pull your kids out of the public indoctrination centers? We know better than you how to raise your kids. It would be better if they were here, where we had them all in one room and we could keep an eye on them. And we could tell them what's important. And how dare you think that you could do better than we could do, even though we only deliver a subpar product that's 51 out of 53 or 49 out of 52 or whatever the number is these days, but so low that it's scraping the bottom. I mean, that regardless of that, we know better than you how to raise your kids and educate your children. Shut up and sit down and just give us our money. You greedy homeschoolers who are taking all that. I just can't believe how greedy you are.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me. I just don't fathom it.
How dare you believe that you know more how to raise we know better than you how to raise your kids. We're going to take all that money. Of course, that leads to a bigger problem, which we're going to get to here in just a moment. Phone lines are open. If you disagree with me, you think I'm wrong, or whatever, I mean, you agree, that 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. Lines are open. Feel free to dial in. We got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, I was trying to hold it all together. All right. I'm just going back through some of the comments here. What did you say, Mr. I don't talk to my constituents is coming on the show? Will you please have open phone lines? Please, please. I've only got him on for 2 segments. That's all I could get them to commit to was 2 segments. So I imagine we're going to be pretty busy with just the 2 segments, but we'll see what we can do, Melody. No promises, but we'll see. Okay. Rhonda said the public school issue in Alaska is not a funding problem as much as it is a money management and methods of education problem. That's pretty much it right there. That is absolutely pretty much it right there. It's not so much a funding problem as it is a money management and method of education. And like I said, some kids are thriving in the current school system. And again, I would argue that those are the kids who are probably the most motivated with the parents who are most engaged. But what we're talking about is the median, the mass in the middle, and they're not doing great. You can always point to the exception, right? Of, oh, this kid's exceptional. Yes, you're right. What's the median doing? Not so great. I was in a coffee shop yesterday, came across some other 2 kids. First, think ratio to students. First, let's think ratio to students. Now imagine these 2 kids, 6 and 8-ish, working on fractions. It's a formula. The district receives the funds, not the individual schools. How do I know? I did all blah, blah, blah. Look at me, how good I am. You don't take each calculation literally. It's district funding. That's what I'm saying. I didn't say it was going individually into that school. I said they're counting them in those schools. It's all going to the districts. And this is it. Give our oil away and blame the schools. No, if we hadn't given the oil away, then we'd given the schools even more money. They'd still be demanding more. And we'd never said give the oil away. You just don't get it because you're a moron. Or you just love to stir the pot. I don't know which. Today is not the day, though. I'm just telling you right now. Today is not the day. Let's see here. My kids have been out of school for over 20 years, and I'm still having to fund the failing school system. Yes, you are. Until the day you die, till the day you stop paying property taxes, you're going to be propping up the failing school system. And again, I want to be real clear because Harold thinks that I'm blaming schools. Some kids do great, but the median, the middle, the average student, not doing so hot. Just saying. Well, that's not true. Why do I do this to myself? Public schools are very good at sending curriculum for review on socially controversial topics. You have a choice to opt out your kids. They also offer advanced courses, something homeschool cannot. That's bullshit. Homeschools can offer advanced courses, including college courses and even courses in the local public schools that are advanced that allow them to attend. I mean, you act like you know it all, but you don't. And the more that you put that stuff out there, sometimes the more idiotic you look. You've got no clue sometimes. It's delightful, delicious when you parade your stupidity out there on that. He says it with such authority, though. He must know. No, he doesn't. Let's see. Don't the day drinking. Blah blah blah. This has you fired up, Mike, just as much as deferred maintenance. Let's do this. Yeah. Well, I do not. Let's not even talk about deferred maintenance. That would push me over the edge. There'd be an FCC violation in there for sure somewhere. All right. We're going to continue the Michael Duke Show. Comments. Somebody better call and walk me off the ledge. That's all I'm saying.
As Michael always says when he's tucking me into bed, no man's life, liberty, or property is safe while the legislature's in session. Oh, wait a minute. That was Mark Twain. Oh, well, still true, though. Michael Dukes, we only steal from the best.
It's true. Only from the best. And we do give them attribution the first time we talk about it. Then later on, it's like, as I've always, somebody's always said, as I've always heard, and then it's as I've always said. See, that's how you take credit for that kind of stuff. That's how it works. All right. We're continuing on here. And one of the more delightful components of this are the consequences of SB 277. That's what we're talking about. This new education bill being pushed by Loki Tobin, no surprise, and Senator Rob Yunt. What? The guy from the Matsu who is supposedly so pro, free markets and school choice and everything else? He wants to defund and dismantle all these correspondence programs that are doing a bang-up job, that are teaching the lion's share of the alternatively schooled kids out there. You want to tear this thing down? Really? I mean, really? One of the things that Suzanne Downing points out is that there are unintended consequences. Now, we always know that for every action in government that there's at least 2 or 3 unintended consequences, sometimes beneficial, but usually not so much, right? And she goes on to say, instead of collaboration, SB 277 pushes control. And the consequences won't be theoretical. As Galena IDEA Superintendent Johnson warned, policymakers are badly underestimating Alaska's homeschooling families. If the state attempts to force students back into the local districts or redirects funding away from the programs that the families have chosen, many will simply opt out entirely. Now, I can say from my perspective that if this is something that had happened while my kids were in the IDEA program, you know what I would have done? I'd have given them all the finger and walked away with my whole family and done it on our own. Would it have been tougher? Yes. Would it have cost us more money? Yes. But you know what? Screw you. You don't tell me what I'm going to do with my kids. And that, by the way, the monies that are going to places like IDEA, to Nenana, to Cyberlinks, to Raven, Yukon Koyukuk, those are monies that are my portion of the state's share of education money. Those are my monies too. But now I just wouldn't have access to them. But you know what? There are a lot of families that would do just that. They would simply opt out. Superintendent Johnson's quoted as saying, simply stated, there seems to be a significant misunderstanding with regard to the strong conviction that homeschooling families across Alaska have. If students are forced back into local district or funding is redirected, families will move to private or national homeschooling options. You're not going to get the line of the 25,000 students who are homeschooled that you think that you're going to force back into the fold. We're going to, at gunpoint, we're going to take your money and you're going to be happy about it. We're going to take it. We're going to put your kids back in the cattle cars and we're going to do it. We're going to put them in the public indoctrination centers and you're going to shut up and be happy about it. The vast majority of them will say, FAFO and bye. Right? They're just going to, I would argue that probably of 24,000, probably over half of them would just be like, bye. We're done. We're done with you, if not more. because, I mean, again, the makeup of most of these people, they made a decision. They're not going to be forced back into something that's lesser or that doesn't work as well, or just to be conforming, just for conformity's sake. They're not going to do it. Now, again, before I get way too worked up about this, okay, which is too late. If this was even to pass, which I highly doubt that this will pass, but even if it was, I am fully confident that the governor would veto it. And I don't see them wanting to try and run an override of the governor on this in an election year, which means they'd pause it off until January. And by that time, there would be so many homeschooling families who would be aware of it and understand what it means that it would be untenable for them to do it. So I'm not necessarily as worried about, and of course, I don't have any kids in school anymore, so it doesn't necessarily affect me, but I'm not so much worried about the fact that it's passing. I worry about the freaking audacity of these people to come in and try and destroy the most successful schooling system in the state. You ought to be absolutely incensed on every level. That is 100% on every level. They've been doing a fantastic job, and this would dismantle that. And then again, all to take that money and to pour it into the local districts instead, to bolster up the numbers in their lowest schools, to try and bilk more money. It's a money grab. That's what it's about. Nowhere in any of this conversation, in any of the things that they've talked about, in any of the 20 different, portions of do they talk about scholastic achievement? What's good for the kids? They don't talk about any of that. This is all about the funding. And this is an attack. And again, I'm not. Homeschool is for some, but good luck replacing public schools with any homeschool program. Nobody said anything about replacing any public schools. Again, 130,000 students across the state, 25,000 of them, 20, it's 127,000 students across the state. 25,000 of them are homeschooled. 100,000 are in brick and mortar school. You're not replacing anything. But that 25% is consistently outperforming the 100,000, or that 25,000 is consistently outperforming the 100,000. And instead of finding out, what did they do? How do we do it? Maybe we could follow along. Instead, they want to defund them. I'm not talking about replacing public schools with a homeschool program. They are directly attacking the programs that are working. It's just so much stupid. It hurts sometimes. All right. Sorry. Phone lines are open. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. If you want to sound off, maybe I'm off base here. Maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe I'm right. Or maybe you've got, here's the question that I would like to ask, because when I said that some people will just opt out, a couple people in the chat room have already said, yeah, we would opt out. And Terry says, I know my kids would opt out. One is homeschooled now, second one next year. I know they would opt out. So here's my question to you. If you're a homeschooling family, or even if you're not, but you were considering it, would you opt out if they decided to say, no, you can't do what you want. You must conform and be part of our system and do that? Would you opt out of the system entirely and just do some kind of national program or Khan Academy online or some other kind of self-taught thing? Would you do that instead? 319-527-3864. I'd love to hear what you have to say on that. Again, not too worried that this really goes anywhere because, again, the governor, I think, would veto it and they wouldn't have the horsepower to override it. But at the same time, the audacity to actually propose this, it just shows the kind of people that they are. It shows, it gives you a peek behind the curtain at the character. We're going to talk about character here in the next segment, too. As far as something else, we're going to change gears a little bit. But first, Patricia's on the line. Let's see what she has to say. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. It's Lee out of Denali.
Oh, hey, Lee. How are you, my friend?
Recovering from a lengthy hospital stay, but couldn't help but pay attention to your broadcast this morning. And the first thing is we have consistently underestimated the influence of the unionized folks that go down and bleat their case to the elected officials who are also on the backdoor payroll. We all know that. And by essentially trying to force homeschooled children back into the brick and mortar system is a way to recover more dollars for the ones that are consistently indicating that it's more expenditure needed for the children, when in fact we don't pay attention to the fact that it goes into compensation packages for the hierarchy that declares itself to be
right,
the intelligentsia called teachers.
Yeah, no, I mean, we know that personnel costs account for 80 to 85% of all costs involved. That is the lion's share of all that money goes to the people, not just the teachers in the classroom, but every administrator, helper, overhead, every other person. The majority of it is payroll.
Yes, sir. And that's the one thing that I think we need to start making a very clear distinction on, is that we have the teachers, the ones that are in the classroom, and then we have all of the strap hangers, which is exactly where the real money goes. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a significant number of contractual obligations when we enter into unionized labor contracts that you cannot get out of once a school district goes into it. But the reality of it is, everything that we pay for the folks that are in the administrative arm of the unionized labor effort that is not in the classroom is a significant draw on what actually goes into the classroom for the actual children.
Absolutely.
Support.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you for taking this on, my friend. It's a great honor that I can hear it, and I do appreciate the effort that goes into it. And I hope the homeschoolers fight back tooth and nail, because if they don't, this will happen. Like you said, it's an election year, and they'll push it off till next January. So in the meantime, I hope that people are motivated to take action with their elected officials before the bloodsuckers get their teeth hooked into the new legislative body in the new year.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate your call, my friend. I hope you are on the road to recovery. Thank you for coming back.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Harmony in the chat room said, I would pull my son out. Catherine says, we would opt out. Terry says his family doesn't conform. We would opt out. Denise said we would opt out. Renee said there's no way I'd put my kids in the. No, again and again and again. One of the messages I got to the show came from Cheyenne. He says, caught a bit of the show today. Got to say, the most important factors is that I've been raising my family here since 2014. He says one of the most important factors is the church we grew into, fishing and nature, and the ability to homeschool. I'm seriously concerned if the state starts taking away resources from homeschooling families to feed a failed education system. We see failed government support structures getting negative attention in Minnesota and California with Nick Shirley's investigation. You know, the Minnesota one was the daycare centers, right? And now Nick Shirley's in California exposing the same kind of thing in California. It's crazy. He continues, I love this state. I was born and raised in Hawaii. I enlisted at 17 and was stationed in a few other states before settling here in 2014. And I joined the Air National Guard in 2020. My family back in Hawaii asked me, why don't you just want to come back home? I say, it's because Alaska actually has the ideas of what Hawaii used to be. We have all the opportunity to live free up here away from the bureaucratic nightmares. He said, I don't have the solution to fix Alaska education system, but I truly feel it cannot be solved by taking away resources from families focused on families to further expand a bloated government. 100%, man. 100%. That's what we're talking about right there. You cannot solve the problem by taking away the resources from the successful programs to further expand or prop up a failing bloated governmental system, which is what they're attempting to do here. This is, again, this is part of the problem. I'm not saying you need to replace the thing. I'm saying that there's a fundamental problem, and you've got people who are fixing it in the forms of these correspondents and these charter schools who saw the problem, decided to do something about it. They're doing better, and now the powers that be want to reach in there and rip out their underpinnings to feed their own beast, which is failing. Again, there's good people out there. There's good kids who are doing good, but the average middle mass, that you look at the curve, those kids ain't doing so hot. All right. We got I've got to go to break. I've got one call on hold. Caller, hold the line. We're going to be right back. We've got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return in just a moment with more right after, and a phone call right after this.
Tune in Friday for our weekend entertainment and movie streaming review with our guest critic, Willie Waffle. That's actually his real name. Really? That's his real name? Man, his parents must have hated him. The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we got one line on hold. Let's figure out who this is, because we don't have a name here. So let's see who it is. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Michael, this is Melissa in Fairbanks.
Hey, Melissa, why don't you hold the line for me, and we'll be back to you here in just a second. Let me mark that down, because if I don't, I will I'll never remember. We'll have forgotten by the time this is all said and done. So okay, Melissa in Fairbanks. Got it. All right. Got her, Otter. It's all there. Yeah, a lot of people saying, opting out. Yeah, it's really true. Improve and focus on improving the public school system. Start with addressing the fact that the state flat funded the system during a period of historic inflation. Harold, they didn't even do well with the money that we did give them. That's the worst part, right? I mean, can you even acknowledge that? Can you be intellectually honest enough to acknowledge the fact that the school districts have done a horrific job with the money that was given to them? Giving them even more would probably have led us to exactly the same spot. I mean, that's the problem. And Brian says it here. I mean, this is the bigger part of the problem. If the brick and mortar schools don't improve, they will self-extinguish. I mean, we've already seen the outflow, and we've seen the outflow increasing. And we've seen, like I mentioned earlier, with the thing with Dick Traney, where he made all those comments, challenging idea and chiseling away at idea. Turns out, of course, with all fallacious information, wrong information, because he was too lazy to fact check his stuff, that idea had a huge surge in enrollment. I mean, that's a big deal. So yeah, they will self-extinguish eventually if they don't turn it around. If they don't focus on the thing that's important, which is the aptitude and the achievement of the kids. That's the thing. And in no way, shape, or form is anybody talking about the actual end goals here. It's crazy. It's crazy. The schools failed my kids, and I'm so sad. I thought change would help. but everything became political. I never allow my son Silas to be alone with any staff. He can't talk, and bad things happen to him, cause lots of problems. I don't trust many. I mean, I have personal family members that have had similar experiences with school teachers and the whole thing. I mean, that's a whole nother show, Lisa. That's a whole nother show. I like that homeschooling doesn't need security guards and safe spaces in the classroom, says Jedediah. Yeah, I mean, it is a plus. It is a plus. And more of Harold's bullshit. All this bashing of public schools. I'm not bashing the public schools. I'm pointing out problems. But, and of course, yes, your kids are doing well. As I said, there are many kids in the higher ends who are engaged with engaged parents who do very well. The problem is the middle. Are you telling me that all those kids in the middle who can't read or do math, that they're all doing just fine, Harold? It's all fine, just fine? It's not a bashing of the public schools. The only bashing that's being done here is by you. And again, today's not the day to test me because I will fix your little red wagon. So stop being intellectually dishonest. That's exactly what you're doing here. You keep trying to put words in my mouth and you keep trying to twist what we're saying into something that we're not, which is complete and total BS. That's not what we're saying. Public schools are important. They need to be there, but they need to function properly. They need to achieve the scores that we would expect. And they need to not go after systems that are working better than they are simply out of jealousy or greed for revenue, which is what's happening. I never said eliminate all the public schools. That's not what I'm saying. So quit putting words in my mouth. Jeez, man. Sometimes I find it entertaining. Today, not so much. Today, not so much. Okay. Whew. Sorry. Melissa in Fairbanks is going to be our next guest. And then we're going to pick up on some other stuff here. All right. Please like and share, like and follow, subscribe, ring the bell. Donate to my coffee fund over at the Common Sense Corps. Or maybe that's my day drinking fund. Just maybe it's my day drinking fund. All right, here we go. Let's get to it. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Okay.
You don't look that excited that you're listening to the Michael Duke Show, but it's probably just because you got a bunch of Botox. Are you smiling? Blink twice if you need help. This is the Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we are continuing here. Melissa is on the phones, calling in from Fairbanks with some thoughts this morning. Let's go over there. Good morning, Melissa. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Michael. Hey, yeah, I think one thing that people are not talking about, or at least I haven't heard it yet, I may have missed it if it's been mentioned, is that the homeschool families also play a part in our financial economy, because I know a lot of people seem to think that homeschool kids are locked in the basement for 18 years and then the doors are unlocked and they're pushed out. But that's not my family. So we pay private music lessons. We pay for karate, martial arts classes. And then there are a lot of other private teachers out there who get paid by homeschool families, not just mine, but others, to help grow our children. And all of those people are going to see a huge decline if the SB 277 goes through.
Yeah,
so that was one point I had.
No, you're absolutely right. When you think about all the add-on industries that help support the homeschooling industry, businesses that have been built up, whether it's the local piano teacher or gyms or karate classes, woodworking courses, and other. I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, all that stuff would just dry up tomorrow if they were able to dismantle these systems. all those things would go away. It would be a big hit to the economy.
Yep. Another one is, say, Alaska Works, which offers week-long classes to juniors and seniors. And I'm sure public school kids can get in on that, but a homeschool kid doesn't have to put their education on hold to take those classes on welding and electrical and carpentry. They just fold it right into their own education at home. So that actually becomes part of their education, and that's through the unions. So that's another bonus to the children and to the local economy.
Well, you know, something that somebody just mentioned in the chat room that goes back to the first part of what you were just saying. Taryn in the chat room just said there are also tons of us employed by the homeschool programs, especially veteran homeschoolers. And what about all the certified teachers that are in the homeschooling program? What about all those people are going to lose their, aren't you worried about all those people losing their jobs as well? Or no, it doesn't matter. As long as the money gets scraped back to the brick and mortars, everybody there is happy.
Yep. So this SB 277 is actually a very selfish bill that's been put out there, and it's supposed to favor a failing beast, really.
Oh, it's
how many
it's
kids
exactly.
do you want to?
Yeah.
How many kids do you want to feed to this failing beast? We could look at my 16-year-old son, who I just got done talking to his contact teacher at IDEA yesterday. He could graduate next year if I wanted him to. I probably won't let him because I believe he needs to work on some life skills, and he's a fantastic kid.
Right.
But he also has a job during the day, working at an auto shop 2 days a week. He wouldn't be able to do that if he were in public school. And so he's their shop kid. He cleans up after the mechanics, and, you know, he's learning all kinds of things by just being there. So they would lose the shop kid, and he would lose the experience of having job skills.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I experienced the same thing, you know, with my kids. I mean, they thrived under the systems, some better than others. And that was the other thing. Each one of my kids had a different learning style. And so what worked for one kid didn't work for the other. Now you're going to force them back into the brick and mortar style or to this cookie cutter where everybody learns the same way, when we know that kids don't do that. And what about
But here's the fun part. I have 11 kids. So it's not really fair to say I have 11 kids because the baby is a foster kid, but 10 of them are mine. I've been homeschooling for 27 years, and my kids, my older ones, have been in and out of the public schools for various reasons. And 2 of them graduated. The 2 oldest graduated from Hutch here in town, which was an awesome high school at the time. I wouldn't send anybody there now, but at the time it was really great. I'm not sending my kids to a public school.
Yeah, no,
So
for any reason,
we
right?
would keep going.
Yeah.
No, and it would change things for us, you know.
Right.
IDEA really is what pays for our martial arts classes. IDEA pays for our piano and violin classes, and IDEA pays for our swimming. So all of that would change, or it doesn't pay for our swimming, but it could if I wanted it to.
Right.
But all of that, you know, we might do a little bit less.
Right.
But I'm not putting my kids in a failing system, because my 5 who have graduated all have careers, and they're 18 to 27 years old.
Right. No, and they're
How
doing
many
great.
people can say that their 18-year-old has a career?
Right. I know. My daughter, who was one of the first, we were in the first 25 or 30 families in IDEA that first year they got started. She's got a career. She's teaching kids down in Florida. She was a homeschooler. She's got a career. She's going crazy down there. She's loving it. My son's a firefighter in the Matsu. I mean, it's fantastic. They've got career. They are whole people. And why would I put them back into a system that is failing the vast majority of the students? It makes no sense right now.
Yep. And for those who are doubting on the line, Harold might be one of them. I'm going to list the 5 who have careers. I'm not going to say their names, but I'll say what they do. The first 2 graduated from Hutch. One is an IT tech for a school district, Yukon-Koyukuk School District. One is a carpenter foreman. He's building up in Nome. He works for one of the unions. My third one is an operator with the local natural gas company. My 4th one is a mechanic. He works on semi-tractors and trailers. And my fifth one is a veterinary assistant, and she's in college to be a vet tech.
Yeah. I see what's happening. This is an attack on homeschooling because it's succeeding, Melissa. That's the thing.
Yep.
What you're doing is working. What they're doing is not. They see it as a way to glom some of that money back because they're just convinced that that's going to fix. You can't keep doing what you've always done and you're just going to get what you always got. And that's the thing here. I appreciate your call, Melissa. Thank you for holding and thanks for coming on board and telling us. And congratulations on all those kids and what they're doing in their graduations, and keep up the good work. That's all I can say right now. I appreciate you coming on board. All right. Tomorrow on the program, Senator George Rauscher is going to be joining us. He's going to be joining us in the first hour for the first 2 segments only. It's going to be pretty quick. We're going to see what kind of info we can get out of him and find out what's happening in the legislature, what he's working on. In hour 2, Ben Carpenter from Oversight Live will be joining us. And I'm sure he and I are going to take up SB 277 to talk about, because the public hearing is today. I'm going to be real interested to see what their invited testimony says about all the things that they're going to do. All right. That does it for us today. Don't forget, on Monday, we will have alternate programming because I'll be traveling back from Fairbanks. We'll be back on Tuesday. Tomorrow, again, Rauscher and Ben Carpenter. And on Friday, it's Firearms Friday. We got to go. Be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Have a great day. Oh, all right, my friends. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be a lot calmer tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll see what this, we'll see what the hearing looks like this afternoon on this SB 277 and what they have to say. It's not going to be good. I guarantee you that. All right. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
Goodbye.